Hey everyone, what's going on? Jack Alexander here, and I had a request on the Virus World versus Dark Moon with no extra deck versus Dark Magician duel to do a deck profile. Sorry for the background noise. I have like race cars going by my house all the time. So I guess I'm going to start this off with, I don't think without an extra deck, that's like, it's just kind of like, it was like a cheap, cheesy deck to make. I had a friend who was like, oh, challenge you to make a deck with viruses, because I was like, I think viruses would be good. I think they actually counter a lot of the meta. A lot of the meta is like really small, low attack power monsters, a lot of spells, or a lot of traps, one of the two, right? So the idea is it's basically just hand control. Abusing hand knowledge, and there's a lot of ways you could go about that too, and utilizing that. I don't think this is the most optimal way to play this, and even as far as not using an extra deck, you should. I just wanted to create an easy, quick, cheap way to make the deck. There's tons of things, even in hindsight, I would have changed in short term. I just want to do something kind of fun. So, but yeah, it's really popular, and I've been getting a lot of traffic on that video out of nowhere. So, I figured I'd share. Alright, so, before I get started on the deck profile, I just want to talk about, like, potential, this other cards you could play. You could really lean into the hand control angle, and just, you could abuse, like, certain floodgates, that kind of play around what your opponent's doing. You could take in Triple Solemn Judgment. I think that's super good, especially on Duel Master, even more so if you're going first. If someone tries to stop anything you do, you just SJ them. You could have Solemn Strikes, just have like Solemn cards. This deck can really utilize Triple Skill Drain, so that's definitely, once you get an opportunity, you can really abuse Skill Drain in this deck. There's like one card in this entire deck that can't resolve under Skill Drain, and that is Curse Necrophere. That's it. But you still get a free monster at the end of the day, so not even a bad card. Graph Up resolves Engrave, and since cards effects can still be activated, both your Dark Spirits would be able to activate, tribute themselves, and then the rest of the effect would activate in the grave after they're tributed. So they're not affected by it either, and then the other side, they're activating in the hand as well. So they completely get around Skill Drain. So that's definitely something worth looking into for sure, because Skill Drain is super strong right now. And like I said, there's like, I don't think it's optimal. Even if you ran an extra deck full of nothing cards, just to like prosperity them or extravagance them away to draw and search, I think that would be optimal, to not running an extra deck. I just didn't want to build one at the time because like I said, I was doing this for fun, and as you can see, it's kind of decommissioned now, but I might recommission in the future. I was trying to rank up and face. I'm going to regional some point soon, so about a month from today actually, this time I'm recording. So I needed to face against a lot more competitive decks to kind of, because I'm getting back in after a long time, like 6 years away from the game, to see what there is. So I know how to counter them kind of, and I'm on Dueling Network, or Dueling Book now. It's not Dueling Network anymore. That shows how old school I am. Yeah, so going to the deck profile. All right, Brow Huntsman. He's like objectively the second best Dark World is non-boss monster. He uses an extra draw every time you discard him. So, I mean, whether that's with drag down, dealings, card destruction, obviously. I would try to avoid ditching him with Into the Void, only because if there is the fact that they will resolve at the end phase in a chain. So, let's say you discard a Brow. With Into, you draw, but you activated the second Into on the same turn, so then you'll draw again. You'll discard him, whatever card you drew, and then you'll draw again. So that's something to think about. You could lose a card because let's say you discard Brow with the first Into affected end phase, and then you draw. Let's say you draw Dealings, you're just going to ditch that with the second. So that's just something to think about. You got your two spirits. I'll talk about them later. Next, I'll probably talk about Snow. So Snow's your searcher. It's the only card that searches in this deck, I think. Well, yeah, it's the only card that searches. So you're not going to be searching with anything else. I really do think as far as like the Dark World lineup, what you're running, it's kind of staple. I wouldn't deviate from the actual Dark World lineup. Maybe you could like have like 1 beige instead of 2. I wouldn't run more than 2. But yeah, you discard hurt, you search your Dark World effect. I think there was a couple games where actually I was able to get off, like someone would card destruction me when I was playtesting this, and then I was able to get off secondary effects I've never seen before, which is really funny. But yeah, that can happen occasionally. If your opponent doesn't know what they're up against. Okay, 2 Lucent. He's pretty simple. You discard him, you summon him. I think he's probably, out of all the cards that have that effect, that aren't something you can normal summon, like beige, he's like the best one. He has the highest attack. He also has a really good secondary effect of when it can go off, which is one of the ones I got to go off. You can special summon 1 fiend type monster from your deck on either side of the field. That's really strong, because you can just literally get a Grapha, or right here you can get Curse Necrophilia. Like I said, this really doesn't happen very often. I had it happen once, and I doubt that it's really going to happen. As soon as they know what you're playing, your opponent's not going to make that mistake. Grapha, boss monster. I'm assuming you know what he does. You can ditch him to pop a card. He targets, so it's whatever. That kind of sucks, but and he does destroy. But he's relatively good. Probably the best part about him is that he's technically, for all intents and purposes, a 3000 beat stick. You can have 1 Dark World monster on your side of the field return to the hand, and then special summon him from your graveyard. So obviously that effect happens in the grave, and it allows you to, let's say you have a Snow in your hand, and Grapha in grave, and then dealings or gates on the field with like Brow and in the graveyard. So you go ahead, and before you do your gates effect, you're gonna normal summon Snow, activate Grapha's effect, pop Snow back to hand. Grapha summons himself for free. Now you have Brow and grave, dealings on field, Snow in hand. So you can now, or not dealings, but gates. So now you can gates banishing Brow, which is going to help set up your Curse Necrophilia, and then ditch Snow to draw a card with gates, and then Snow's effect activates, letting you search to kind of further your combos out. So and usually giving more fuel to Grapha and stuff like that. So that's always good. Next, you got your spirits. Your Dark Spirited Banishment is going to react to monster attacks. So if your opponent's monster attacks at the start of the damage step, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. Then target 1 level 8 fiend type monster from your graveyard. That's both of your boss monsters here. Special summon it, but its effects are negated. For Graph, obviously, that doesn't matter at all. And if you do, change the attack to 2-8 and perform damage calculation. I think this might be glitched out in the game. I'm not 100% sure. I did have multiple times where this didn't resolve correctly, and the attack did not go to the new monster. In fact, I had one that went... there was a field change, and it still was attacked directly, so that was really strange. I'm not sure if that's a glitch or if this is some interaction I'm not aware of, because I'm not really too familiar with all the rulings with this card, so maybe I'm wrong, or it may be a glitch. I'm not entirely certain. Second effect is a level 8 fiend type monster is sent to your graveyard. While this card is in your graveyard, except during damage step, you can add that card to your hand. So this is obviously the best part about these 2 effects. They both have this, where you can just bring out a boss monster, recycle the boss monster, bring out the boss monster, recycle the boss monster, and it's really hard to predict this coming. It can be on the field, it can be in the hand, even like I said, under skill drain, you can distribute it off. So it's just good no matter what. And then this guy is the exact same, just with monster effects. So when your opponent activates a card effect, sorry, not monster effect. So them together, they kind of play off of each other. And they're kind of just looping. As you can see, it's the exact same thing, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So you can use both effects in turn, so that does matter. But essentially, you can get 4 summons off, looping these guys around. So there's a lot of busted plays. And as far as XYZs or just extra deck cards, I would say play some rank 8s, because there's some really busted plays you can do with rank 8s and these guys, especially not under skill drain. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with that. And we've got your Curse Necrophilia. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by a card effect. Obviously, that's how you're going to be summoning it. Dozen different ways to do it with this deck, but that's one of them. You can target 3 cards, 3 of your banished Fiend-type monsters, special summon this card from your hand. Targeting them is the cost, which is crazy. And if you do, shuffle those banished monsters into the deck, so that actually happens upon resolution, which is pretty nuts. During your end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, because it was destroyed by in your monster zone by an opponent's card, and sent there this turn, special summon it, this card from your graveyard. Then you can destroy cards your opponent controls up to the number of face-up spells and traps you control with different names. You can only use each effect of Curse and Necrophere once per turn. So that's not really happening. Like, you're not destroying like a ton of cards with this, obviously, because your only face-up spells really going to be Gates. But that is like a 1 destroy, which is kind of cool, and it doesn't target, which is great. So it kind of gets around Grapha's effect of not targeting. So that's really, really cool. Obviously, the ideal way to summon it is either with its own effect or with this, like, so the Banish Return and this. I've also thought about throwing in some Dark Arm Dragons in here, just because you can really manipulate the Banish Zone that way in the graveyard, so there's just a lot of potential for that. They kind of feed off of each other. The only thing that sucks is Dark Arm Dragons at level 7, so you can actually add some stuff. This goes down into... once again, you could play whatever. Main taking Feather Duster, I'm not certain it's like the best thing, or it's amazing or bad. It just kind of is. So this card can be amazing, it can be an absolute dead draw. So once again, that's like totally up to your discretion. Card Destruction is an absolute staple. it's so good. You could even think about like taking a Morphing Jar or something, but like, yeah, Card Destruction is a staple. I think there's a lot of utility to Monster Reborn. I think even in the duel, I misplayed at one point. I brought back a Grapha, but what I should have done at the time was bring back like Snow or something that was in my grave, bounce it back for Grapha and his effect, but I didn't do that, so that's something to think about too. Triple Ragdown, this is an absolute staple. Both players reveal their hands. Once again, you get knowledge of your opponent's hand. You're the one playing it, so you're choosing what they get to see, and usually they're only going to see cards you want to discard. Yeah, so you're already getting advantage based off of that, knowing what every combo your opponent can do, every play they can make. Each chooses 1 card from the opponent's hand, then you discard the chosen cards from both players' hands, and both players draw 1 card. Obviously, this is great. Dark Road Dealings, each player draws 1 card and discards. This affects, kind of helps your opponent. It doesn't give you any hand knowledge, but it does. It's just a generic, it's searchable through Snow. It's a generic draw card that will let you discard and get effects from that. If you discard a Brow, you're going to get an extra draw. If you discard a Snow, you're going to get an extra search. The worst thing you could probably discard just like a Beige or a Lucent, obviously. Allure of Darkness is basically just Pot of Greed for this deck. You're running Darks, so you get to draw 2. It sucks you lose a monster, but you don't actually lose it because you have Curse Necrophere. So that's always something to think about too. So yeah, it is essentially just Pot of Greed, and Pot of Greed is banned. That's how good it is. Into the Void. This is like the best and worst card of this deck. So, and I guess you could run like Cards Demise too. That's also something you could do. If you have 3 or more cards in your hand, draw 1 card. If you do, during the end phase of this turn, discard your entire hand. Yeah, hell no. Like, obviously, this is good. But you, like I said, it kind of sucks to play more than 1, depending on what's your hand at the end phase. Obviously, this deck doesn't really hurt from having no hand. You could also play Card of Demise. I think there's a lot of stuff for that. Once again, I don't think this is the best deck, or a version of this deck. I think there's so many cool things you could do. I think you could run, back in the day, a lot of Dark World players ran Reckless Greeds, because it didn't really matter if you skipped your draw phase, because your draw engine was so strong. So, you know, like, setting a bunch of cards, having some be Spell Blast, having some be like viruses, and having some be Reckless Greeds. You know, obviously everything, your opponent does like a, you know, board wipe, you might be able to chain everything and just wreck their day. You could chain everything, chain 2 viruses, trib 2 monsters off, call spells, and, you know, get your monsters, and then your opponent's whole hand's nuked. You chain 2 Reckless Greeds, and you draw 4 cards, and they're just going to scoop, because there's nothing they can do. I think Scythe is bad. Trust me, this is super bad. We already went to Gates on Dark World. The only thing we didn't really cover is that all your Fiend-type monsters get 300 attack and defense. Obviously, that's amazing because it turns Graph into a 3000 beat stick and Necrophere into a 3100 beat stick. So that's amazing. Deck Devi Virus, man, gosh, what can I say about this? This card's really good. I just noticed there was a trend of so many decks running monsters with less than like 1500 attack, because there's these big combo decks with these really weak pieces. So I mean, this is going to affect Droitron. One of the coolest things you can do against Droitron is basically like, or like Herald, you know, you can, Droitron Herald is, you know, you deck Devi them and then follow it up with Eradicatoring them, and they're just going to cry, man. There's... They can't play spells. They lose all their monsters. It's incredibly strong. And then you get to see every card they draw for 3 turns, and even if they don't ditch the card, you know it's in their hands. That's just so incredibly strong. Because the main advantage this deck has, really more than anything, is just knowing what your opponent can do, and they don't know what you can do, and setting up things around that. So they're constantly scared of your back row. After they get their first virus, they're constantly scared of getting hit by a virus again. They want to avoid that at all costs. And the fact that you are setting your spells face down with your traps and then activating them when you want to, because you don't want to have a hand, not giving away what you have to your opponent. Half of your cards could be bluffs, they could all be bluffs, they could all actually be live cards, and your opponent doesn't know that. That's scary for them, and you know everything they have. So that is, like, big. So one of the main powers of this deck is just the mind game. And then to your Eradicator, this card is just super, super strong. Just depending on what the deck, 99% of the time you're going to call spells. Spells are super prevalent. I mean, decks are going to call traps against like Eldritch and stuff like that, but 99% of the time you're going to call spells, and like I said, your opponent's going to cry, especially if they can't have monsters, they can't have spells. Well, congratulations, now you can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! At least underneath Yu-Gi-Oh! There's not too many decks that can really get around getting hit by both of these viruses, especially around the same time, or even back to back. And then having that knowledge of your opponent's hand, every card they draw, and just wiping them out. The fact that it even hits cards on the field too is really good. Certain, like in the sense it doesn't, but yeah, it's really good. Like, it's just all spells. So, and even then, let's say your opponent has a huge back row, right? So essentially, it's going to nuke their back row. You're also going to get knowledge in real life, in real time, on what their back row is, because they have to show you. Even if it's a trap, they have to show you, okay, this is a trap. Here's the trap. So you're going to know what's on their field. You're going to know what's in their back row. So you don't have to be scared of the back row anymore. There's no knowledge that you're missing. So just a really fantastic card. So that's essentially the deck. Draw control, and then beat down. That's really it. So like I said, I would run it with an extra deck. I would probably change some things if I were to, if I made this again to pilot it. It kind of sucks because it is really expensive. Like I said, like the bare minimum you're going to need as far as ultra rares. I mean, I guess it's not super expensive because you do need like it's like 6 or 9. Yeah, 9 ultra rares. It's not super bad. But there are cheaper decks to make. There's a lot of super rares too. So it can be, like, in a sense, relatively expensive. Like I said, I don't think you technically need the Reborn, although I do think it's good. I don't think you technically need the Feather Duster, and I really would encourage running an extra deck and even maybe some more traps in the engine. There's probably some better things beyond optimize. Like I said, there's Cards and Demise, there's Skill Drain, there's Reckless Grades. I think they're all really good and have a lot of potential with this deck. I did do some play testing with Grinning Grave Virus as well. I really just didn't like this card, because when it was live and it worked, man, it was amazing. You basically just won, right? So... but like most of the time it's dead, and when it's dead, it is dead, and it's basically useless. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of this deck, or this card, to be honest. I ended up taking it out, and I had it in here I think at like 1, and I think at one point I had it in 3, and then I brought it to 2, and then I brought it to 1, and then yeah, just 0. Don't run it. It's bad. So and I'd say the only other thing is if like Crush Card was legal, or the old Crush Card, the old non-errated Crush Card was legal, oh man, like run tour guides, like 3 tour guides. I think Sangan might be legal in this version of the game, and just run that at 3, man, because that'd be wild. But obviously, tour guide, or the old Crush Card is no more, and it's now like Doom Virus Dragon is its new effect, and I wouldn't, running that stupid, so don't do that. So yeah, I kind of rambled. I didn't think this video would be this long, but I just want to do a comprehensive breakdown of the deck, show you guys the deck. So if you want to play it, go out and try it. And like I said, try other things. Try throwing in some Dark Arm Dragons. Try throwing in Reckless Greeds. Try throwing in Skill Drains. I really am making a good extra deck around it. I really think that's what it would benefit from. If any of you guys, tried something like that and you see success, and comment down below, tell me what you found. I guess if you want me to rebuild this deck and try a lot of those ideas and see what I like out, and then do a new profile and some new duel videos, I will, just because it's so popular. Comment below, let me know. I'm going to also link this video embedded into the original Dark World Duel video versus Magicians, and I'll probably do the same vice versa, so I'll link them together. I don't know if this was the exact playlist. I mean, I think I was running Green Grave in that, but I mean, it was something pretty close to this. I think I didn't have card destruction. There's like one card I didn't have. So, yeah, I mean, this is basically what you're going to be building. So yeah, guys, if you want to build it. It's a lot of fun, actually, and will make people upset. Go out and have fun. Anyway, Jack Alexander, you guys have a beautiful day, night, year, everything. All right, peace.